Hey guys, I'm here to lend you further pseudo-intellectual insight on anime. This time we'll be analyzing the mysterious short film released on animatorexpo.com entitled Until You Come to Me. I actually really love this little film. It reminds me of the Joy of Man's Desiring scene from End of Evangelion, except with a red color palette. Instead of a somber tone, now it's more sorrowful. If you hadn't had a chance to check it out and all the short films down at Anime Expo, I suggest you go do so. They're really quite interesting. This one and Me are probably the best. Before we get started, a heads up for spoilers on Neon Genesis Evangelion, the films, End of Evangelion, Evangelion 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. And before anyone says that this film has nothing to do with Evangelion canon, Hideaki Anno, series Dungeon Master, is credited right below the art director and layout. I'd expect Anno to have looked over every aspect of this short to make sure it works with the inevitable final film. The art director of Until You Come to Me, Tatsuya Kushida, well, he's credited in everything related to Evangelion's main canon, doing background artwork and art in general. The caption underneath the title on Animator Expo reads, "The concerted, in this case meaning planned by many people, fragments of Tetsuya Kushida's esquisse," or rough sketches, or esquisse, I don't know how you pronounce it, and music. This probably means that this short film is full of rough sketches for 3.0 plus 1.0 that were either scrapped or are in the final product in a more developed form. We'll have to see. But Kushida's project even matches up with the storyboards that were found in Shirosagisu's Peaceful Times, so let's assume that it's at least a hint as to what's to come. As I said before, Kushida's responsible for background art in Evangelion, so it's cool to see him take front and center stage on this project, which is what Animator Expo is all about. And he made a little interesting piece of artwork for the 2015 Evangelion calendar. The first thing to sort of take apart about this is the most obvious aspect, the title. The title comes from the lyrics of an Irish folk song called Danny Boy. The confirmation is in the credits. Danny Boy is often hailed as an unofficial Irish national anthem, usually by Irish Canadians or Irish Americans, and it's frequently used at funerals. The song itself tells the story of a grieving person, usually considered to be a lover or a parent. It's widely thought that Frederick Weatherly meant for it to be vague. He's the author of the song, by the way. In 1918, there was a release of the sheet music. Eily Dear was a replacement for the male users, implying either a lover or a mother for Danny Boy. Despite this, no one was really sure of Weatherly's original intent. Tons of males sing the Danny Boy variation straight face, so I don't think really anybody cares about the other one. Now, if we look at the lyrics, Danny is considered to be a young man going off somewhere. I would venture a guess that it's a war front based on the singer's longing, almost worrying call to Danny. "'Tis you must go, and I must bide." According to the song, the singer would also be in peace, knowing that Danny loved them. If we look at the short film from the perspective that a character is being represented by this song, or two characters in this case, I think the most likely candidates are Kaoru and Shinji. "You will bend and tell me that you love me, and I shall sleep in peace until you come to me." Not only is this line the basis of the short film's title, it also harkens feelings of contentment, knowing that a person said, "I love you." You can look at this however you may, but in Neon Genesis Evangelion, Kaoru does in fact say this directly to Shinji in both the film End of Evangelion and the TV series. Shinji has always struck me as a pansexual character, considering the fact that he craves love regardless of who it is. Kaoru-kunが好きだって言ってくれたんだ。僕のこと好きだったんだ。This placates into his dependent personality disorder, so I don't think I'm too far off with this idea. Curiously, an exchange of I love yous was omitted in 3.0. Instead, we got gay piano. But instead of Shinji and Kaoru's relationship being a commentary on Shinji's dependent personality disorder, in that film, it's more of like an obsession that's one-sided and a willingness to comply based on a few kind gestures. It's even implied in the film that Kaoru actually framed Shinji for most of the calamitous happenings that happened before the movie even began. Either way, I think the state of Shinji at the end of 3.0 would definitely imply a craving for any kind of forgiveness from Kaoru. A desire to comfort him before he dies? If Rebuild Shinji is in any similar state to End of Evangelion Shinji, then he's feeling pretty anxious to kick the bucket right now. The "until you come to me" line is further reinforced by a line in 3.0.
そんな顔をしないで。また会えるよ、シンジ君。
This is the perfect song, in my opinion, to set up the events of 3+1. Keep in mind, it's only a theory. Perhaps there are other characters the song connects to, or perhaps it doesn't really connect to any characters and is just coincidentally similar to certain events. And it's food for thought. Getting into the actual video itself. First off, we start exactly where 3.0 left off. Shinji's depressed as hell and being dragged along by Asuka. Something very stark and noticeable about this film is its incorporation of snow. This doesn't match up with what we knew about the NGE universe, where summer was eternal. It does draw attention, though, to the Danny Boy verse.
The summer's gone and all the roses falling.
It could be a tribute to Sadamoto's manga, where snow is used in the finale. It won't be the first time the Rebuilds dipped its pen into the manga. Poker Ray, which is, the variation of Ray in the manga, is emulated in 2.0 with some earlier development than in the series. It's also worth noting that the original draft of End of Evangelion was to feature snow during the Asuka fight scene with the MP Evas. However, due to budgetary and technical limitations, this wasn't implemented. Perhaps this could be a kind of fulfillment for what EOE couldn't do. If it's symbolic of anything, I'd guess that it would be change that comes with winter, the change that has happened throughout the franchise, the change of atmosphere. Jumping forward, we see Asuka Shikinami's entry plug crashed into a house, followed by failures of infinity. There's a lot of railroad and tram imagery, harkening back to the theme of running away from your problems and those surreal train car introspection scenes. We then can notice the camera starting to zoom into Shinji, suggesting us submerging into his thoughts. We see Unit 1 in its Gao mode, or God mode, whatever you want to call it, then a flash of Shinji being stabbed by Unit 1 with 3 knives in his heart, or in this case, a core. Foremost, Shinji's feelings about the near third impact event back at the end of 2.0 come to mind. Brash thoughts about how he and Unit 1 destroyed the world in a ritual neither of them could have predicted. Fear of Unit 1 and its shadow, Eva 13, and widely fantastical self-destructive thoughts are his responses. Shinji's definitely afraid to pilot Eva now, and will inevitably not be capable of piloting for much of the next film. The knife in the foreground is the PKN-0C, as seen in Evangelion 1.0. The second has been theorized to be the NGE version of the same knife, but I'm really unsure. The third one is anyone's guess, but a very odd thing to add to the scene. His own unit stabbing him is already suggestive of self-persecution, but could the unseen hand be that of Shinji himself? Gendo following suit of Unit 1 could mean that Shinji blames his father for what happened. It's an interesting parallel, since Yui's inside Unit 1. Shinji's fear and hatred of both individual parents is essentially being displayed here. Then we see Kaworu briefly, and even though there are 3, I really think this is just implied movement rather than any confirmation of Kaworu equals Homura Akemi or something like that. Finally, the most curious thing is shown. It looks like several Unit 1s from NGE without bandages having lances of Longinus come out of their mouths. Reminds me of the scene where Unit 1 spits out the lance of Longinus in End of Eva. Something to notice, the teeth in the eyes are very similar to that of the End of Eva variation. Plus, they appear to be in the same place as the atoms described by Kaji in 2.0, with 4 spears respectively. We jump out of Shinji's head and we're given a shot of the Black Moon, or Central Dogma if you will, now shaped like a Holy Grail. A failure of infinity fades in, headless, making me think back to the headless angel statue in Death and Rebirth. Its neck is shaped like a plug suit collar. I wonder who it could represent. If you haven't been speculating about sequel theory yet, this certainly will make you think of it. We have Asuka Soryu from NGE and EOE, then Shikinami from 2.0 and 3.0. Then we have the Shore from NGE, EOE, 2.0, and then presumably 3.0. I don't really want to jump the gun on sequel theory yet. It feels too obvious to be a twist at this point, and the theory has complications if we're looking at it from a time travel perspective. It would mean they would have to build off from wreckage, but no one remembered the difference in time, or calculated the difference in the star patterns or anything, assuming references survived after the impact. More likely it has to do with parallel dimensions, in which case quantum ray might be involved. Ray Q stands along the highway, overlooking the Red Sea, her uniform lined with blue instead of red. This could indicate a couple of things. Blue bands are tied around some of the arms of the Willy crew members, and Asuka seems to be sporting a similar style, symbolizing her alliance with Willy. Ray Q could have switched allegiance herself from Nerve to Misato's crew. This is likely considering that Ray Q is lost on what to do, so she follows Asuka and Shinji. she might join their cause after initially being held captive, but there is some things that go against this idea. One is that the color isn't exactly the same as Asuka's stripe or the willy bands. Second, it's on both sides instead of on the character's left. Blue and red are also symbolic for Evangelion, so you could draw other conclusions from this change. For example, the red ocean is considered impure. The ocean was being purified in 2.0. Could this mean that Reikyu is being purified? The next shot is of Shinji and Reikyu, not Rei-2 and Reikyu, not Shinji and Kaoru. I've heard both of these ideas from people, but the bare hand is vaguely masculine in comparison to the other, and the color palette matches that of Shinji's skin way more closely than that of Kaoru's. Reikyu is a no-brainer. Her plug suit, same style, same color. Reikyu eventually dissipates, leaving Shinji alone. Considering we have a reflection in Quantum Ray's eye later on, my guess is that she fuses with Quantum Ray. Quantum Ray being the bookend rays that people so fondly remember, each appearing at the beginning and the end of the franchise. Interestingly, the reflection in Quantum Ray's eye is extremely similar to the frame in 3.0 when Reikyu is speaking to Shinji in her quote-unquote room. If it was redrawn, it's no doubt trying to emulate that scene. When I think of the title 3.0 plus 1.0, I think of things joining together. This is a scene from 3.0 being reflected into the eye of a character that appeared in 1.0. It sort of makes sense that Quantum Ray would fuse with Reikyu at this point. Quantum Ray is standing over a ledge, so there's no way she could see eye to eye with Reikyu literally. Reikyu would have to be standing directly in front of her, and that is a ledge. Also, Reikyu doesn't come into focus until the frame after Quantum Ray blinks, suggesting a supernatural element. Before we go on, I want to briefly mention a short film Anna worked on years before. Daicon IV. Anna was one of the lead animators on the project, and it's pretty amazing. If you hadn't had a chance to check it out, maybe you should do so. In it, there's a desolate red planet that turns back into blue. It makes me think of this short film. Suddenly, we're cutting to blue waters and greenery and vegetation, and either the world has been rejuvenated or this is some kind of time travel. I really think it's more of a rejuvenation though, because that would mean that it would be in parallel to that of Daicon IV, and Anno just loves to tribute the crap out of everything, so... We come to a reflection. This reflection parallels 1.0 concept art involving Shinji rather than any NGE artwork. So I'm willing to put my cards down on it being 1.0 Shinji rather than NGE Shinji like I've heard from people. Though there is some weight to it being NGE Shinji considering that Shinji notices something, similar to how Shinji notices Asuka on the beach in the last scene of End of Evangelion. Is it Shikinami? All in all, I really liked Until You Come to Me. It's mainly an emotional lead into the next film, and a very effective one I might add. I'm not sure what will make it into 3.0 plus 1.0, and what won't. We might not see any of this, quite frankly. While I'm a bit iffy on some theories surrounding this short, I hope I backed up most of my points adequately enough. Thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned for my Shinji Ikari character analysis. I'll see you next time.
He's fucking invincible! Michael's just become fucking invincible! Why is Michael so good at this? He's just a monster!